Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF 44 coming at you in another video. All right. So, man, you know how it goes. You be having these dreams. As I've been telling you guys, when I do not smoke weed, I have vivid dreams. And I ain't been smoking no weed, so I've been having some vivid dreams. And I didn't know what to think of this dream, y'all, honestly, because it held a really interesting plot, I guess you could say, or maybe message. But I kind of battled with myself. I wanted to share it really because of the nature of what it was. I just didn't want people to think nothing like I'm thinking some negative stuff or like I'm wishing for something negative for someone else. I definitely not at all. But I gave it some prayer, gave it some thought, and another reason why, before I get started on that, didn't want to share it is because I didn't see how the dream ended. I woke up before we were able to finish the dream, but this is how it goes. Because this person is on my prayer list, and if you follow me, y'all know I've been praying for random people and close people to me and everything else during a time in my life when I was really, really afraid and weak. I felt about as weak spiritually as I had ever felt about 4 years ago. I don't know what prompted that exactly. I don't remember. But I just told the Lord, I got on my knees and I told the Lord, man, I feel about as weak as I ever have. I need to get closer to you. And I don't know what to do. I feel selfish. I awakened myself to understand that everything about my life was self-centered and that I was taking on a lot of stress just because I wasn't thinking of others enough, wasn't praying for others enough. So that prompted me to start praying, like literally start praying, and then starting that process of like being consistent in my prayer. The Lord was more or less showing me that He wanted me to pray for others. You could pray for yourself, but He could do a lot more for your prayers for other people. So I just started praying. I prayed for my homegirl Kay and my cousin Latasha, who was suffering from some serious health issues at the time. She since has gone on to be with the Lord very recently, but those are the first two people I put on my list. And I just started adding to that list, adding, and now it's so huge of a list that it's almost, I don't know, I had to stop counting, but it's over 150 people for certain on the list. And lately, I added Cardi B to the list, and the last person I added to the list was Doja Cat, and I told y'all that last night. But just random, I put my random celebrities on there, anybody and everybody for any reason whatsoever. And Cardi was one of the most recent ones, and she was a person that came into my dream. And for whatever reason, it was her and her family I dreamed about last night. And of course, with Offset being somebody we spoke of yesterday morning with, the video that I made saying we all gotta, at a certain age, a man gotta grow up. I think the Lord put His family in my dream as well, kind of connecting all of that. So this is how that went. I found myself, for some reason or another, and the combination of dreams didn't make no dang sense. Y'all know dreams, they don't make sense. But I believe the dream started out with me going to the Staples Center / Crypto.com arena to watch the Lakers. And it turned out that they had removed the ceiling for that particular game. Who knows, that doesn't really happen, but they removed the ceiling so that it would be an outdoor game. And it was freezing, like super cold. And they didn't have a jacket. But for whatever reason, they had like jackets available to people or something. They had like a rack of jackets, knowing that people were probably not going to do that, didn't know what was coming, so went and grabbed me a jacket. None of this has anything to do with the dream itself, but it just kind of segues me into what actually the dream was about. So I watched the game, yelling for the Lakers. Kobe was down there. He was in the dream playing ball, so I don't know how that worked out, but he was there. It wasn't the Shaq and the Kobe era, but for some reason, whoever was running on the floor had Kobe on the floor. Whatever. After the game, I ended up meeting Cardi. I don't know how. And it was all very vague to me how I ended up at Cardi's and Offset's home. in a respectful way. It wasn't nothing crazy. But like, they ended up, I guess, giving me a job or something. I don't know how that worked. I ended up working for, it's like maybe a cook or something, or I don't know. It didn't really have definition to it, but I was definitely being employed by those folks. And it was one of those situations where somehow I found out that Cardi B had seized my mom's bank's accounts. Now, my mom was still alive in this dream too, so none of this made any sense. But I guess my mother worked it for her too somehow. Maybe that's how I got a connection with her. How this connects to the Lakers, I don't know. But my mother ended up working for Cardi, and I guess my mom owed Cardi some money. And Cardi, through the lawyers, had my mom's bank accounts stopped. Now, I know where all that came from. That came from a combination of something I heard that Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, I guess some people had done something they shouldn't have done in his eyes, and I guess it's been said that he started stopping their bank accounts or something. So I read something like that, added it to my subconscious like I do everything else. And then I know Cardi B also had an issue where she was trying to get some money from Tasha K. We know how that situation went. Tasha K is also on the list. I started praying for her back when that whole situation started. She's been on the list longer than Cardi. So I think I kind of took from that stuff, but I was adding it to my subconscious and put it in this dream some random how. Point is, my mother was who that was pointed at instead of, I guess, whatever, how that went. And I remember like talking to Cardi about how, you're very wealthy, and it really hurts when you do this to people who don't really have a lot. That's what I was telling her, like, this really does hurt. And Cardi was like, I understand what you're saying, but I got to get my money, you know what I'm saying? This is how it goes. And I was like, but how much do you need when you're doing this to someone who's poor? Now, mind you, I don't know if Cardi doing nothing like that in real life. I don't. It's not real. But, I was telling her, like, this is harmful for us because we don't have a whole lot. And, I was essentially telling her, like, and she was moving around in her house, like she was on her way out the door or something like that. It was some banquet going on in her home as well, so it was a lot of people moving around. So I was trying to get her attention, and I understood, like, yo, you need to keep your distance. You know what I'm saying? This is not a situation where you have a right to be approaching her about anything. But because it's my mom, I'm going to defend my mother, and this is important to me because I feel like we're being pushed on too strong to pay this back. And I'm like, I think I told her something I was able to speak with, and I was telling her, something along the lines of, when you do this to people who don't have a lot, it can come back to you in ways that you don't expect. Unprecedented things could kind of come back and get you when you try to take more from people than they have to give when they don't have a lot to begin with. And it was almost like she kind of brushed that off. Like, nah, I'm still going forward. You know what I mean? And this is not something that I really will hear from you. You know what I mean? I ain't trying to hear this. I got things to do. If she would have paid me my money, we wouldn't have these problems, that kind of thing. And I was like, all right. But then I said something along the lines of, we should not play with God, though. Just like I was saying last night, but I said it in a way that was like, yo, but God essentially exists, and we should not be trying to take from people. Even though they owe you, you got to find another way. You can't seize their whole bank account. You know what I mean? You can't just stop all of their money. They got to pay bills. They got things they need to do. Like, you're wealthy, etc. I just kept trying to reiterate the point. And I told her, all right, but unprecedented things can happen when you do this. God finds a way to make it right for the people that are wronged, however it goes. And all of a sudden, we hear this extreme boom. And I look out the window, and of course this ain't real because she probably has a compound that wouldn't allow for her to have neighbors like this, you know what I'm saying? But you can see the buildings across the street and different homes around her property. in my head, and I ain't never seen a house, so I don't know what their compound looked like. But in my head, how I made it look was their home almost looked like my grandmother's home, but just bigger. The old house that my grandmother had in Oakland, which was like an old Victorian home, but it was massive. It wasn't the same size, but on the inside, it kind of looked like some of the same rooms, so I could equate it to something I knew, right? As your brain does, it tries to make sense of something that doesn't really, you don't know what it looks like. So that's how I had her house looking like. And so I looked out the window that it was similar to my grandmother's window, and I saw that house across the street get hit with a massive boulder. Boom! When I say massive, thing was like a quarter of a mountain. Crushed the whole house. And then I looked down the street, and it was another house got hit with another boulder. Boom! The surrounding homes were getting hit. And at that point, I'm like, okay, we need to get out of here, because we gonna get hit and we ain't gonna survive if we don't get the hell out of here. So everybody in the house was scrambling to get out. Boom, everybody scrambling. And I immediately say, okay, where are her kids? I'm looking for Wave. Literally, I'm going upstairs. I'm like, where Wave at? We gotta get him out of here. We gotta get him out of here. Somebody else had her daughter. I never saw her in the dream. Offset, I think, was not in the dream. But Cardi was running around also with me looking for Wave. Like, we got to get him out of here. Right now, we got to get him out of here. And we were hearing the boulders hitting all the houses around. And I saw my mom. She was running out of the house like she was there. And I just remember kind of looking at Cardi. And Cardi was like, I understand what you're saying now. I get it. I get it. I get it. Don't worry about it. We're going to get it right. I get it. And as we were going around looking for Wave to get out the house, I woke up. I don't know if that would ever make any sense to anybody. I don't think Cardi's taking any money from nobody like that. Obviously, the situation with Tasha K, that might be what the Lord put that in my head about, because even though Tasha K has some money, Cardi's trying to get her for a lot of it. And I do pray for both of them consistently as they're part of the list. So I don't know if that has something to do with the dream. But it just hit so hard as far as my mind was concerned, because it was so many people in that dream, and the space of where I was at, and the idea of her not being receptive to what it was I was saying in regards to karma, so to speak. And then immediately the Lord showing us all in his own way that he was not playing, which is what I always tell y'all. And so for me, it was like, I don't want to put this into the airwaves. I don't want people to, I don't want to, everything ain't meant to be shared, especially when you have stupid dreams like that, where you know what I mean? It ain't related to nothing real. But I think the key to what I didn't say in this dream was I was able to, when I was trying to appeal to Cardi, I was able to tell her, like, yo, I remember your early days when you weren't rich yet, when you were still putting videos online, making us laugh before you had even gotten the paper, before you had gotten your teeth done. And I was a fan of you, and I remembered how much joy you exuded through that camera for my spirit to appreciate. Even though I was a different kind of dude, I wasn't from your world. You were talking about girls and ratchets. I remember telling everybody, like, this girl funny. She gonna be a star one day in real life. I remember saying that in school, like, yo, you could market this person in a million different ways. And when she grow up, she's probably going to be very special in what she does, because you could already tell she gathers the attention of the internet in ways that it just hadn't been done yet at that time. And I remember telling her, like, Cardi, I remember the humble beginnings that you came from. I remember, this was before she even began to, do adult entertainment, not porn, but like stripping. Like, she used to do videos where she would steal a youngin', just getting up little, like before TikTok, little 30-second videos where she say something ratchet and move on. But it would be funny as hell to me. And she had such a massive personality, charisma, And I just remember telling her, if someone would have been doing that to you at the time, it would have made life so hard for you. Have you forgotten this? Have you forgotten how it feels to be in that position? Have you forgotten? Like, don't do this to us, you know what I mean? We're in that position now. We're trying to make it now, and you're cutting us off, so we can't even have access to our money or what have you. And she kind of looked at me like, it kind of clicked, like, yeah. And then she had to, like, you know what, nah. It was like she got it and then she didn't. She was like, nah. And was saying, you know, if y'all had the money, you wouldn't have these problems, that kind of thing. It's like, but we can't get it to you right away, that kind of thing. And so then from there, everything transpired after that, all the chaos and all that. I wish I could have finished the dream, but my mind just woke up. I don't know, something beeped outside or something. It literally woke me out of the dream before we got a chance to do all we were going to do. The boulder never hit her home, but we were still running about there. First of all, I pray the Holy Spirit. Of course, she's on the list. Nothing ever like that would even come close to their family. May they have complete love and support and peace and all of that in Jesus' name. You know, I don't wish nothing but the best for people in general, definitely people that I pray for on a daily basis. You know, I don't want nothing but the best for them, even though I don't know them. But at the same time, it was just a dream that I felt like I needed to capture because of who all was in it. Who all was in it? My mother, Kobe Bryant, people I pray for on the list that I do not know. And in the story of what it is, which is the immediate understanding that Lord God brings forth immediate karma, regardless of who the subjects are. That's been the tone of what it is I've been talking about for the past probably last 2 or 3 weeks. It's kind of been one of the themes of this channel, is to not play with God, and how the Lord has taught me not to play with him, and how the Lord has put me in a humble position to respect other people's circumstances. You guys know when, you know, my childhood friend Lester had hit me up in real life a couple weeks ago and told me that he was in a situation where he needed to come up to my place because he didn't have nowhere else to go. And I turned him away in real life because I thought that day the sheriffs were going to be coming. I was deep into my anxiety about that situation. I just didn't think it would be a good look if the sheriffs came and he was there, because obviously ain't nobody supposed to be there, not even me. And now it would be like you got a squatter, so to speak. I didn't want to have to answer those questions, not only to the sheriffs, but to him. I ain't talked to him in a while, so I didn't really want to get into why I hadn't spoke to him in a while. I didn't want to get into why things had gotten so bad. It was all about me and my own thoughts, not about making sure he was in a space where he was okay. Even though I knew I was going to be homeless soon because of the circumstance. I knew I was going to be in a situation, but at that time I still had the place. Didn't know if the sheriff was coming, woke up anxious, and he's talking, he needed something. I couldn't do it, couldn't bring myself to do it. It was nothing that should not have been done, and I knew that. And then, you know, of course the sheriffs didn't come. And a couple weeks later he asked me again when I didn't think the sheriffs were coming, and I still didn't want to do it, and I had my reasons for that. I told y'all that too. But those reasons weren't good enough to leave somebody stranded. Those reasons weren't good enough to turn somebody away, especially when they family has done so much for you already. And I tell you all the time, his sister is why I'm in this room right now. His sister was why I was in that apartment right there. That should have been good enough to help me override my own anxieties, my own nonsense, to open my door to him. Even though we haven't spoken in a while, I just had my own things. I was a million different reasons why I didn't want to do it. And it wasn't right. And that's why I confess it all the time, because I do believe it's why the sheriffs ended up coming not too long after that. I truly believe that if I would have let him over, I'd probably still be over there right now. The sheriffs probably would have never came. I really believe that. I think this is absolute and utter direct karma for me turning away somebody, not respecting what homelessness really could be. Not to say he was homeless, because I don't know that he is, but to be stranded, to not have nowhere to go, to need to come over and have somewhere to shower. I don't think that I had the right ideas in mind, even though I was reserving things with my natural mind. As I tell you, I didn't allow myself to go to the Spirit and pray to the Lord what he needed me to do. If this would have been the day, that's how I would have handled it. Like, Lord, this is how I feel, but this is also what is coming my way. I don't want to cross you. Can you put me in a space where either I say yes, or at least I prayed about it, so where my no's don't blow back on me? Because I know I wasn't thinking in a spiritual space when saying no both of them times. I was thinking in fear. I was thinking in protection of what it is I thought I had to protect in my own way. And so I think that's what it was about. It's about, look, if you got to do something that you feel you have to do, but you know it's going to harm somebody, or you know you turning somebody away, you got to make sure that it's okay with the Spirit of God that you pray to. If you believe in God, you believe in the Holy Spirit, that kind of thing, you can have your own natural thoughts. Because I tell y'all, my anxiety keeps me from really doing normal things. It's on my mental health work. And what I got to do is to pray to the Lord to make sure that what it is that I'm doing and reacting to that anxiety or reacting to my natural mind is what he wants me to do, so that I'm not being disobedient and ultimately bringing forth this type of thing to my life. And so with that being the reality of what it is I've been going through, the dream that I had kind of coincided with that, but placed onto somebody else. And of course, being in this dream, being that this dream happened now, it's like after the fact in regards to learning that lesson and being able to tell others, well, don't play with God. Don't turn people away without praying to God and make sure it's okay. Do let people in if you have the opportunity to do so, especially if there's someone you've considered a friend or whatever the case may be. Make sure you check with God to make sure things that you do that you know are going to hurt others are what he wants you to do. And if he tells you he wants you to do something different, ask for the strength to do it and get it done. I didn't do that. And I get to believe that things transpired poorly for me because of it. So with this new application of truth, I'm going around telling everybody on my channel not to play with God, and he gives me dreams like this that involve people that I pray for, people that I care for as well. And that's really what it is. I was able to see that in a dream once again. And so it felt like it was okay to share that with y'all, even though I wasn't really sure what type of energy that puts out. When you say, oh, something boulders hit houses around their house, like people may think you were nuts or something, you know what I mean? People may think you trying to, no, at all. Don't even have to finish the sentence. No, this is coming from a place of love, and I prayed about this video before I made it because of it. And so that's what this is about. That's exactly what it is. It's yet another example of how the Spirit is trying to teach me just how he operates sometimes. When you turn people away, when you do stuff out of your natural mind, she owe me money, therefore we're going to let the lawyers go through this, that, and the third to make sure that money come my way by all means necessary, even if it drives her into the ground, drives her son into a place or whatever. This is how we move. And it's like, are you sure that's what is best? You may know that works for you. You may know that works for everybody around you. You may think, you know what I mean, that that's just how people operate to get things done. But are you sure that's what the Lord wants of you in this application of what you got to do? And that's what I was trying to appeal to Cardi in the dream. It was like, yo, I don't think this is how the Lord wants you to move in regards to myself and my mother, particularly my mother. You got to open up them bank accounts so we can at least have access to what we need. You know what I'm saying? You gotta tell your lawyers to stop that. You may be able to get your money that way, but you're gonna do a lot more harm to us. And as a result, you may have that blow back on you in ways that you are unprecedented. And that's, I guess, the key to it. I was telling her though, it could come in unprecedented ways. You don't see no way they could come back to you because you're wealthy, got a beautiful home, beautiful family, schedule that's probably booked to get you money for the next 6 months. You don't see any path to karma, but I'm telling you that you're hurting us. You know what I mean? That's what I was telling in the dream. So to stand down, you know what I mean? Back off. Like, we can't do nothing to you. We're not going to do nothing to you. But because of it, the God we serve may want to teach this lesson to you, to not play with him in this way. And the only thing I can say that would even halfway relate to the subject in the video, in the dream, is the Tasha K situation. That's the only thing I can say, because I don't know if Cardi doing nothing like that to nobody else. I really don't. I don't know if this is specific to her at all. I just think that that's who the Lord decided to use in the dream. But it's for everybody, man. It's not for her. It's for everybody. You know, and the message already been said. Just make sure you pray about this stuff. Don't go with your natural mind. When I go with my natural mind, without prayer or without thinking about the Holy Spirit, chances are I'm going to be trusting myself to do that in situations where I shouldn't. As I told you guys, my mind usually gives me anxiety about stuff. You having anxiety attacks about stuff that I coerce myself into by not praying. Like sitting around relaxing in situations where I need to be getting up and moving. That's what my mind does. It tells me that things are fine, even though they're not, about certain situations in my life that I could do something about. That's what my anxiety does. It makes me put things off, put it off, only to be so very weak in addressing stresses as I keep putting them off. If I addressed every stress that I have with proactivity and more faith to do certain things that may seem a little anxious, but ultimately could be preventative in making things better for myself so that I don't have the worst consequences come my way, it becomes a situation where I delay everything, and then when it's time to, I have to, I'm either not, okay, I end up going through the anxiety of having to deal with it and having to cramp everything into the last minute. That has to be done. And you know what I mean? It's like, and being weak because I'm not used to it, and being less likely to know what to do because I never force myself to do what needs to be done each and every time. That's my own little way of operating. And it leaves me in a position to know now that, like, when those anxieties come, don't trust those necessarily. Go to God and ask him how to help you deal with them anxieties, and then from there, with the spirit having been checked with, he'll not only give you the strength to handle it, but he'll let you know how to manage it. He'll maybe even tell you don't have to do that. There's a third option you don't see. It ain't just the either or that you're working with. And that's what I'm learning, is to go to him first. The situation I got right now, it's like I got the hotel contract being over on Thursday, and my anxiety is telling me to relax because we got time. But the reality is that relaxation is going to coerce me into not having what I need. But it's like I don't have the rhythm of doing all the things that need to be done because I've always operated this way. It's a self-realization I've come to while being in this hotel. I need to be more proactive and do more things and fight those anxieties. And I won one of those battles 2 days ago. Had the worst anxiety attack / dream I had maybe in my entire life. That was supposed to keep me from kind of following a lead for an apartment situation for myself. I ended up defying that, going out and having one of the better days I've had since coming on this side of town, because I defied that anxiety and prayed first and went forward. So I think that's what this is all about, is learning how to work God into the equation a lot more to help me operate with my day-to-day stuff, so that when my anxieties hit with all these real life stresses, I can address them properly and be more preventative than I ever operated before. So that lesson tells me, and that way of operating tells me to tell everybody to do that too. You don't have anxiety, maybe you don't have to operate that way, but maybe you don't go to God with every decision that you make. And sometimes when you are looking to lash out at people or get some money back for people or try to make a way to get some money, period, maybe you're doing some things that he don't want you to do. And maybe if you go to him first, see what he says, pray about it first, maybe you'll get some understanding of what it is he wants you to do. Maybe there's another option other than the options you're looking at. Maybe he'll help you see those options by way of your meditation. But if you just go with your natural mind, you can't really trust it. That's what I'm learning. Your natural mind will coerce you into some bad things, bad karma maybe, or some circumstances leave your family unsafe and you think you're protecting your family. You gotta go to, if you're a believer, you gotta go to that space in the morning. You gotta go to that space at night, praying to God. You gotta make sure everything you do is on point. Because if we go with our natural mind and listen to the people around us who are going with their natural mind, applying whatever to get whatever we need, believe you me, there are gonna be times where you cross God. And maybe you don't even know that you need to go to God. Maybe that's not even in your natural mind. You're too busy to do all that. And you got too much going on. I don't have time to meditate. It's okay to, within your space of chaos, to say, hey God, you got me while I'm moving. Hey, can you make sure that what I'm doing is what I should be doing while I'm moving? Because I am not used to coming to you. But it's not about beating yourself up for not. It's about working it into your routine every morning. At some point in time, we got to go to the shower. That's when I pray for the list. So there's never an excuse for me not praying for the list, because it gets mentioned in my everyday routine. Maybe for you, it's when you brush your teeth, something you're going to do every day. And in that moment, that's when you can go to God and ask him to help you with your decision making, especially stuff that's going to affect other people in a negative way. stuff you feel you have to do, stuff that works in getting things done. Maybe it doesn't work for God, or maybe it doesn't work for you in the long run. You otherwise won't know that if you don't go to the Spirit. That's what I've learned within my own life. They say I don't know how it's worded, but you go to God, you trust God over your natural mind, because that natural mind is filled with sin and being in cultures that influence you, that we don't even know why them cultures are in place. So the stuff we do is just gonna make God angry anyway, just by default, because that's how the world moves. And sometimes there are ways to keep from having the karma of those things blowing back on us by doing something that may not necessarily quote unquote work, but puts you in a position to where God can make it so that the opposite of what I saw in my dream comes. Unprecedented great things can come to make up for what it is that otherwise you did that doesn't work. I was talking about my grandmother in my video last night briefly, and I forgot to mention, actually I don't think I did, I was praying about her. I don't think I even mentioned her, but one of the great things that my grandmother did was teach me the concept of doing more than necessary at times. When asked to do 5, do 6, because that is what the Lord can get the most out of in regards to you when you put forth more effort, when you give a little more than asked of you. That's when you have the favor of others. It's like, wow, you went above and beyond. And sometimes, even though you don't get back what comes with that, what you think should come with that, maybe you're not getting back 6 for putting in 6. The Lord will be able to use that extra effort to apply extra good to your life, or extra conditioning. Like I said, when I don't address things in the moment and I put it off, it makes it so that I'm so much more weaker when it is time to deal with the stress, and the stress is so much more hard to deal with, because that's what it is when you put things off. It's going to be the opposite when you do a little more each time. You know what I mean? It can make it so that you're even more equipped for whatever it is that you need to do in regards to applying your effort, because you've always given more than you've asked of you. And a lot of times people appreciate that if they're not the type of people that take advantage of that, but even so, you're more likely to be able to do so, or rather deal with that, because you're used to applying more effort than ever asked. And then that's where Kobe comes in, because that's one of the things that he was about. He put in way more effort than most of the people around him, because he was so much more excellent than a lot of them. I guess that's where he comes into the dream. Effort. And continue that work ethic. Get up at 2 a.m., work out till 4, go to sleep till 5, wake up at 6, do it again, and then proceed to do your day like that. His type of work ethic was so extra, but it conditioned him to be able to be as strong as we saw him be. The type of pain that he allowed himself to endure in his workouts every day made it so that when he had injuries, he could still walk up to the, with an Achilles injury, walk up to the free throw line, still hit his 2 free throws and walk off. It's because he put himself through so much pain on such a consistent basis in the preparation of working out, in the preparation of his games, to where when he went through certain types of pains, they weren't even as unprecedented as they would be for most of us, because he was always hurting himself in the name of conditioning himself for the consistency necessary for whatever it is he had to do on the court. And so that's how that all ties into my mind. I think it's putting in that extra effort. As my grandmother said, sometimes you do a little more, you get back more from others. And even though you're not doing it to get anything back, in fact, you're doing it specifically knowing that you're not going to get everything back, it will pay off in the long run in your condition, and it'll pay off in the long run in how people see you as one who does more. So that's really what came to mind as well. I think sometimes we just gotta try to work God into the equation a bit more, so he can teach us how to give more often, because he knows what's coming in regards to what we're preparing for, and he knows what type of strength we're going to need. When I put all those couple of names on the list to start, he knew I needed to add more in order to get to a space where I was as strong as I was trying to be. It wasn't just going to be me praying for Latasha and Kay only. I needed to add to that list so that not only I could have more favor in his eyes, but also so that I could strengthen my memory. So once you start praying for people, you have to remember all their names each day. And as you do so, you grow stronger in your memory. You're teaching your mind how to memorize things better. And that's one of the weaknesses I had. It's one of the things I grew up having trouble with. And as somebody who does the things that I do, I got to be able to have a good memory. You know, doing these Laker videos and doing all these things, I got to be able to do it without a script a lot of times. So I got to be able to remember all these different names, all these different things. And that's what it was doing for me. Praying for the list, adding names to it, saying those names every day. It made it so that my memory was stronger in other areas. It made it so that I could do all this that I do without needing a script in any way. Put in a little more and adding to it, getting used to that. I remember when I got to about 50 names and I was saying them every day. I'm like, wow, I can't believe I'm remembering all these names. One of the reasons why I never wanted to act as a child is because I thought my memory was so bad that I'd forget all my lines, so I never wanted to take acting classes. But only to find out that later on in life, I would be able to recite 170 names off of memory just because I had been doing it for 3 years straight, adding to it each time. And as of late, the list has gotten so big that I haven't really been doing that at all. I ain't been saying all the names. I've been adding to them, but it's like, I ain't had the time to be sitting there for almost an hour saying everybody's name. So I just say, Lord, bless the list, bless the bereaved, but the practice is in place. I know I could go back and start it over again with all them names and get my mind right because of that practice that's been in place for over 3 years. It teaches me to go to God, teaches me to trust in God, teaches me to be unselfish in the sense that I'm not just thinking about myself and praying for myself. It's what it was about. So many different things that the Lord can do when you just sit there and say, Lord, can you help me? Help me. He'll teach you how to help you by incorporating other things into your life that you don't even know to do, but you got to be willing to incorporate him in. Teach yourself how to do so. Start small and build. I think all in all, I hope I was able to help somebody. That's what I'm thinking. And I hope that my dream doesn't bring about anything negative in anybody's heart, because all I'm asking for is the Lord to bless everybody that hears this and everybody I spoke of, for sure, especially those whose families are mourning, you know, the Bryant family. Obviously, my mama's gone. Everybody who misses her, including myself, you know, that kind of thing. And of course, Cardi B's family, bless their household. I don't want nothing of any negativity come their way. You know what I'm saying? And as I recite, as I speak the name of their son, you know what I mean? I speak it in respect, you know what I mean? And all of those different things, man. Offset, that's his wife, that's his home. Speak their name in respect with the prayers I pray on a daily basis, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, that's what it's about. I try to be of respect for others, because if people, random people online mentioning my name, I don't, you know what I mean? I'm sensitive to that. I need to know who you are, or who the heck is you, that kind of thing. But I'm telling y'all, I pray for people. Like, I really do. I'm one of those people who go through so much in life that I ain't got no choice but to pray for folks. So let's hope that I was received well in regards to this, man. And I hope that I've helped somebody start the process of building their own prayer list, or building an opportunity to do a little more, or even just think of the concept of helping somebody that maybe it just ain't in your natural mind to do that, or maybe think of another option. Pray first and allow those prayers to provide you that option. And it just gives somebody some grace, man. You know, people struggling, you may not know of struggling. Maybe you didn't have humble beginnings, but do hear what I'm saying. Do check out what I'm going through. Maybe it could give you a third party perspective on what struggling can be about. Struggling, I coerce myself into a lot of people's poverty. They don't do on their own. Sometimes they just lose their job or whatever. They find themselves in worse situations. Maybe they got a lot of kids, such circumstances maybe make it so that they can't, even the money they earn, they can't do nothing but give it somewhere else, you know. So that they need grace like this to not, you know, freeze their bank accounts, and not to come down on them litigiously and sue them, because if you take what they got, they can't do what they need to do. And while you don't know that or care about that, the Lord does, and he may be looking to pay you back for what it is that you're doing to them, even if it's what people do. Everything about being in this hotel room over the last 2 weeks has been about lessons like this, learning how to incorporate God and trust God. Even now, I'm still resisting certain aspects that I need not, but I'm learning to trust him more and not trust these anxieties. Learning to trust that he can work in new conditioning so that I'm not always putting stuff off and thus finding myself in situations like this, just to protect myself from anxiety that really is probably keeping me from something good, and the comfort of of adhering to that anxiety is probably coercing me into stuff that's going to make me 10 times, 20 times more stressed. That's why I know that this is blessed, because I can tell people what it is I'm going through and they can apply it in their own way, because all of us have something that we need to do differently in regards to how we operate. Just by sheer nature of the culture that we live in. It's all about money, all about getting mine, all about getting even. Sometimes you can't get even. Sometimes you're going to put in 6 and get back 4. But if you put in 6 each and every time, you get used to all of that, and you won't need more than 3, because you know that you can give 6 no matter what. So if 3 is taken from you, you have what you need because you always put in more. That's how you balance out circumstances that are greater than what it is that's coming at you. Sometimes stuff outside of your control, you are used to coming to God. You used to putting in more effort. You used to giving people breaks. You used to not always having what you need and still being okay and being fulfilled with that. That's what faith can do for you. Make you stronger than you ever thought you were going to be. When I was sitting there in that shower that first day before I made the list, when I was sitting there telling the Lord, I feel so weak, I can't even bring myself to think properly because I'm so weak in my heart and mind and soul. He told me to pray for somebody else. The only reason why you feel all that is because you think about yourself. So that's what I did. And I remember when I got to a point where the list was so big, and I just stopped in mid-sentence one time while praying for the list, and I said, this is the strength I was asking you for. This is that. I don't feel like I did when I was sitting on the floor in my shower, just broken as a man completely because I couldn't figure out what the heck was missing from my life, but I knew I was unhappy. This is what I was looking for, God. I'm saying 170 names, and I'm getting ready to get out, and I'm going to feel better about myself today. And I got this all in mind. This is what I was praying for, God. Thank you for this. And even at that point, when I felt I had found my strength, I was still far away from where I needed to be. Because here I am learning even more lessons with even more strength, with more humility, knowing that I got a lot more to incorporate, to trust him more and allow things into my life that maybe I really, in my natural mind, think I don't want, but probably would otherwise be best for. And the very things that I think I want probably coerce me into maybe what it is he doesn't want me to be, or more of the same, for which I don't want. Heck, even worse, maybe revert me back to that same old pain before how the list came. Got to keep God close so that you know what it is he wants you to do, so that you don't trust your natural mind and your fears, or trust your natural mind and your defensive mechanisms, trust your natural mind and attacking folks when you feel like you owed or whatever. Nah, none of that is certain to be what it is that he would align with. And even if you are mistaken, he may still get you back in the name of karma for what you may have done and hurting others. Trusting your lawyers to seize that money, you may need to know that you need to tell them lawyers to stand down, and the only way you're going to find that out is if you talk to God right now. So that's what that was about, man. That's what that whole dream ultimately brought me to, is to first go to God about the dream and make sure I'm not getting on here saying something that's going to make people mad at me. You know, make sure that I'm not saying stuff to make people pray against me in the name of protecting their own family, because that ain't something that I feel is necessary, though you should protect your family in prayer no matter who's coming at you in whatever way. I can encourage everybody to pray about what it is I've said here so that you make sure you receive it properly. That's what it's about, going to God first. So that's what I need to do about my own personal situation. I feel anxiousness about where I'm going to be living. Tell myself in my natural mind I don't want to go where I need the next place that is maybe available to me, but there may be a third option. That very anxiousness is telling me not to live there. I may find out that I don't have to live there, but because I'm sitting here worried about where I'm meant to live, I'm not looking for something else. Go to God for that. He'll give you the blueprint of how to not only coerce yourself away from those anxieties, but how not to be so comfortable in what it is that you think you know is coming. Because the very thing you think you should be doing, or the very thing that you would tell yourself in your natural mind is your other option, might be the option that's going to coerce you into a path that's much worse than what it is you even anxious about. Can't trust nothing as far as I can tell but the Holy Spirit. So that's where I'm at with it, man. I'm telling y'all, go to God about what it is you're doing, especially if you know it can blow back badly on somebody, especially if you know you ain't gone to God in a while about stuff, and everything you done kind of just brings you to spaces to leave you with a bad last name or whatever. You don't know what type of unprecedented things the Lord can do for both good and bad in response to your effort. You know what I'm saying? Going to him will, of course, you into knowing what works for you and for him. And maybe even what works for the party that you also are dealing with in the other side of the circumstance. So that's what all this has brought me to, man. That's what this is about. I appreciate everybody for allowing me to speak on my dreams and speak on my experiences and be as vulnerable as I am. I hope that I'm helping people. I don't know if I want to label this a therapy session or put Cardi's name on it. Probably a therapy session. I ain't trying to alarm nobody. This ain't no message to Cardi, not necessarily. But she was the focus of the dream. I was asking for her to have mercy upon myself and my mother. She refused, and then things started happening fast. And I don't know if she would relate to that in regards to Tasha K or not. Tasha did some things, that would prompt Cardi's wrath. And if you cross me without, and I don't go to God, I'm probably going to want to get you back too. I'm probably going to want to see to it that you're going to have to pay me all that twice over, for putting stuff out on me like that. But I tell you, I prayed for Tasha K, not because I felt that she was right for what she did, but because the Lord put it in my heart to pray for her now, because she was facing what she was facing. And I knew it stemmed from a place of pain. The stuff that she was choosing to do in the name of building her brand, it stemmed from some things that had happened in her life that were horrible in nature. Some things maybe Cardi don't even know about. Some things Cardi may even be able to relate to. I don't know. I hope not. It's not my place to try to get involved in those ladies' business. I learned that lesson too back in the day by way of my friend Kay. She taught me not to get involved in women's business, which also relates to the situation, because that's what Offset was essentially saying to Kenneth Petty, which all of this ties together. Stay out of women's business. Don't get involved in women's beefs. That was a lesson I learned from somebody else on the list. Look at all these people on the list and how all these situations intertwine like this. I'm telling you, my only intention is to do what the Lord wants me to do, because I've been doing the opposite of that, and I've been getting no worse consequences. Even though I had the list, even though I had the proof, even though I was raised in the Holy Spirit, us believers and people who believe, we still end up moving in our natural mind, because that's what the world teaches us to do. That's what comes naturally in general. But you got to go to God more, pray a little more, incorporate him into your daily works more. If you truly believe in him, he's a tool, not just a creator, not just a merciful God. He is a tool to navigate the world and its rules. God is a perfect God, so he can bring himself to just being something that helps us. You know what I mean? It don't have to be something you adhere to the great, a lot of us look at God so many different ways. He can turn into a tool from which to use to help the world and keep you safe. So that's what I'm here to share with. I hope everybody's having a fantastic morning. This is Sunday morning. A lot of what it is that I otherwise would want to do ain't available to me, to kind of look for places to live and all of that. But I'm telling you, this is a day of prayer. I'm going to speak to my family, something in my natural mind I haven't wanted to do, because they gave me some money to get into the Lyft program and I didn't do it. But the thing about getting in that Lyft program is I did pray about that. Even though I didn't, in my natural mind, have guilt-tripped myself into thinking that I didn't do with their money what I should. What I actually did was I went to the Lord about it, and he told me, it's not what I want you to do. And because I didn't do it, I've coerced myself into being able to do all these different videos, because if I was driving, none of this would have happened. All them dreams, all these different things, none of that would have happened, because it would have been a different way. I would have been driving instead. Some of the stuff that I did last week, I was telling y'all, paperwork that needed to be submitted. If I would have did what it is that I thought I needed to do in my natural mind that I hadn't prayed for beforehand, telling my family I'm going to do the Lyft program, only to get their money, pray about it, and realize it wasn't right for me at the time. If I'd have been praying the whole time, then I would have known not to tell them that that's what I needed the money for. I would have known that that's not what he wanted me to do at the time. Maybe it was what I felt I needed to do to get money. But it actually wasn't meant for me, because there were other specific situations and specific experiences that he wanted me to experience the way that I did. Go to God beforehand, after it, in between, so that you can stay on point at all times. And that's a whole lot of going to God. Believe me, I get it. I don't have that worked into my equation. That's why I have these circumstances, but I'm learning that's what I need to do. And I'm learning that's what I should probably be teaching others too. So that's what I'm here to do, man. We're defeating the devil in every way possible. Anywhere he may be nestled, we're going to attack it. especially these inner demons and these inner workings of things that we do naturally. They probably don't work for us at all, man. They just don't work. And I'm not a preacher. I'm not a religious pusher, a religion pusher. No, I'm not somebody that you need to look at as a holy man. I'll tell you, I deal with demons and stuff like that I need to overcome. This is one of them. But he's teaching me, man. I'm in this hotel room for a short period of time, and he's doing so much teaching to not only not trust him anxieties and not trust him comforts, but to also come to him about these lessons so that I can share them with y'all. And because I did things a certain way, he was able to use me this way. Both the good and the bad. And because I pray for these people, they happen to show up in my dreams and be subjects from which I can make it so that everybody relates to the lessons that he's given me. Because if this would have been random Joe and Patrice or whoever, random people that I don't know, it wouldn't hit the same. But because he's using people like Cardi and Kobe and all these people in my dreams, people whom I pray for, because I definitely pray for the Bryant family too, I'm able to kind of see opportunities to make others relate to what it is that these messages are, and see how he can work in these people's lives as he does. Because I pray for them, he puts them in my mind, and I see how these things come together like this. So that's the power of God, man. It ain't just about teaching you to do things right and you better adhere to the words and that's it, the word. No, it's not that simple, man. Sometimes you may not even have access to the word, but you do have access to the spirit, and you may need to go to that spirit when the word ain't available. You may be able to go to that spirit when the world is telling you that you ain't got time for nothing, but to use your natural mind to do what you gotta do so that you can get the results that ultimately work. They may not work for God. They may not work for what's actually coming. They just work for what your doubt tells you is coming. But as I always say, your faith is a stronger predictor than your doubt. It is far more accurate because your doubt is attached to the enemy that wants to do things backwards. It's the bottom line. My name is BDF 44. I thank you all for watching, and I'm out.